If you don't know about flyer deals on Instacart, this message is for you. Flyer deals are like strolling through your favorite store looking for deals, but you're scrolling your phone, and maybe you're in bed. Because getting delivery doesn't mean you have to miss deals like you'd get at the store, like the one creamer that doesn't make your stomach hurt, or the pasta sauce you can't not buy when it's on sale. So download the Instacart app, shop flyers, and never miss a deal on one of your favorites. Plus, get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes.
Hello, Clarice.
It's alive! It's alive!
We accept one of us.
I kick ass for the Lord.
I want to play a game.
They're here.
It's showtime.
All right. I am Jay, and with me is Peter and Frank, and we are the Three Basket Cases. So today we're going to do a movie called Brain Dead from 1990. Not the Brain Dead that was Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, the other Brain Dead movie. So before we get into that, Frank, what have you been watching lately?
I watched The Exorcist recently again. Great movie, of course, classic. And I watched The Exorcist 3.
Skipped right over 2?
What was that?
Skipped right over 2?
It wasn't available. I would have to buy it, and I've heard too many bad things about it to pay the $3 to watch it. So I'm just going to wait till that's free.
Okay.
But The Exorcist 3 was actually a good, it was actually a shockingly good installment.
All right.
Agree.
Sounds good. What have you been watching, Peter?
I watched the Fear Street Prom Queen called on Netflix.
Yeah.
That was surprisingly decent.
Okay.
And I watched Piglet. About the guy.
Not part of the Pooniverse, though, right?
It's not. I thought it was, and I kept waiting for the tie-in. That didn't happen. It's just a guy dressed up like a pig who just kills everyone. It was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, C-.
All right.
Could have been gorier or more over the top. It just kind of played it straight as a horror movie, but you got a guy dressed like a giant pig. They could have ran with that a bit more, I think. But not bad. Both I would see. Recommend.
I watched Heretic. It was decent. Hugh Grant was really good. You got to be in the right mood, though, because there was a lot of conversational stuff in there. So it's not like this high-octane horror movie. And I watched Wrong Turn with the very first one. I looked it up. There's like 7 sequels or something, but I watched the first one.
One was good. I liked it.
Yeah, it was.
You know what else
It was kind of like Hatchet before Hatchet. Wrong Turn. It was kind of like Hatchet in West Virginia.
Although Hatchet took it a bit further, I think. They just said, let's throw some more special effects at it.
Yeah. What were you saying, Frank?
They actually, I saw today that they released the Peter Pan movie that is part of the Pooniverse.
Oh, that's out already. Okay.
Yeah, it's out. I guess you can purchase it. So I'm on the fence about purchasing. I might wait till it's free.
Yeah, I guess it'll show up on Peacock with the rest of them.
I would assume so.
Okay.
And I also watched Tremors.
The original.
You know, the original, yeah, okay. with Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward and Reba McEntire.
Okay.
And as a kid, I thought that they were dropping F-bombs every 2 seconds, and there's only one time that they say fuck in the whole movie.
I guess when you're like 6, it's like shocking enough where it sticks with you.
I swear, I thought it was. I thought, and I could be wrong, but it looked like they dubbed over a bunch of F-bombs in that movie. But I could be wrong.
It's possible.
I wonder if it's R. I don't. That's another one that had about 400 sequels, but the original, I think it was rated R. I don't remember.
No, it's PG-13.
Was it really? Oh,
yeah, I actually found my VHS at my father's house and put it in, and I was like, what happened? Where was this?
Yeah, I think to be PG-13.
No horror movie should be PG or PG-13, in my opinion.
I think you're allowed one F-bomb in a PG-13. Yeah, I think you're allowed one F-bomb in a PG-13 movie. In the 80s, anyway. Now I think it's R. So we are going to do a deep dive into Brain Dead. Have you guys seen this movie before? And if not, what were your expectations going in?
I had never seen Brain Dead. My expectations were when I saw Bill Pullman and Bill Paxton,
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty amped up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, this is going to be a decent movie.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Peter?
I never heard of it, and I've gone down deep rabbit holes of horror movies, but I can't say I've never heard of it, but it kind of fell into that category folder of, movies from the 1990s that I was probably confusing with the other Brain Dead, Brain Damage, actually. So it was completely out of my radar, under my radar. I haven't seen it, barely heard of it.
So I picked this movie because our podcast is named Three Basket Cases, which is an excellent trilogy directed by Frank Henenlotter. And I thought I had picked Brain Damage, which is one of his other movies, and I didn't. I picked a completely different random movie that has no connection whatsoever. So that's my bad. So that's why we're doing this movie and not Brain Damage.
I was a little confused.
Yeah, I mean, we got two Brain Deads and a Brain Damage. Is a little confusion going on. So anyway, yeah, you guys want to jump into it?
You want to go first, Frank?
Well, I mean, I got a walkthrough, so
Sure.
I can start doing my walkthrough, and you guys can jump in anytime you want. My first note is that there's brain scans during the credits, and I was going to say that Frank Henenlotter likes to have imagery of what's going on throughout the movie in the opening credits, until I realized I had picked the wrong movie and it's not him at all. So maybe that's just like an 80s trope where they kind of have like a really long credit scene in the beginning with like just enough to make you not fast forward it.
With awesome music. The music during the opening I thought was pretty good.
It set the mood. It got me in a good mood. I was like, all right, I like the tone so far. Anyway, it opens.
I mean, before even that, the title screen for the movie itself with the face stretched out,
yes,
really got me. I was pretty excited about that too. I was, what's going on here?
There's a very cool image. I think it's one of the movie covers, but it's also the image you see when you go to Tubi for the movie. So yeah, that's also what grabbed me for that.
It's the stretched out face.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
stretched out face.
That's the money shot. I mean, clearly that's just show that all the time.
Yeah. Which was like two seconds of the actual movie.
About 5 minutes in.
And never to be seen again, which I thought it was going to be a big part of the movie, but nope. So it opens in a lab with that face. It's like this stretched out face nailed to a metal sheet, and they're poking its brain to make the face move. I thought the special effects were pretty decent on that.
Yeah, plausible.
Behind them, there's a wall of brains in jars, which made me think of Futurama.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I have to break into that for a minute. It was a stretched out, skinned face.
Yes.
I don't want to dig into it too deeply, but it was speaking and smiling, correct? Did it speak?
I don't think it spoke.
It wouldn't have a throat.
No, they had he was poking the brain in different areas to make its eyes blink and make its mouth move.
Yeah.
Which, now that I think about it, doesn't make much sense. But
Because if it's just a skin, Yeah, I want to see behind it. I wish they kind of went behind that skinned face and showed us what was going on there, because that might have explained, or not, a lot.
It seemed like stretching the face was just for pure torture reasons. There didn't seem to be any other purpose to stretching the face out.
I thought it was more like aesthetic, like it had to have the face like a yarn work. That's the only way to have the face displayed on or a frame. I don't know.
So it's very clear that part of the movie is not explained at all. So you just go with it, and it turns out it doesn't matter because
medically or otherwise.
We fast forward 2 minutes and it's never seen again. So I guess it doesn't really matter. So there's a wall of brains. One of them gets knocked over, and then it goes to the next scene where the main character's friend comes in. He says he's from Eunice Corporation, and he has to interview Halsey, which is a paranoid schizophrenic in an asylum, to get a secret formula. So that's the basic plot of the movie. They're trying to get this secret formula from a schizophrenic. This, I have to say, was a very hard movie to write a walkthrough for. It's okay right now. It gets very difficult very quickly. It's kind of...
You don't even know how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I like when his assistant dropped the brain off, and it smashed into a million pieces.
Yeah.
And Bill Pullman is like, "Oh, we'll just put in 80% more gelatin. We'll put it back together again."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh yeah, that's how that works. Yeah, sure."
So they're panning over to the asylum, and the soundtrack sounded a lot like the Exorcist theme to me. It was cool sounding, but I feel like there could have been some copyright infringements there.
God, you're right.
So they go to see Halsey, and he doesn't remember the secret formula, but he agrees to do some brain scans. He doesn't really put up a fight. He's just like, yeah, I'll do brain scans. So they do some brain scans, and it turns out he has paranoia. This is Halsey, the insane asylum guy. So it turns out he figured out something big in the lab before he went crazy. And they pinpointed the exact area causing paranoia. And the debate is cutting that area out of his brain to get the info. Which also I don't think is how that works, but we'll just go with it. So to get the info, they need to cut out the area of his brain that is causing paranoia. Right.
Okay.
This is if I'm wrong in any of this, please jump in and correct me, but this is what I'm understanding from this movie.
Yeah, and he had murdered his family and ended up in the Lakeside Insane Asylum, which looked really, really dreamy to me. Like when they initially went to the Insane Asylum, it looked like something out of A Nightmare on Elm Street to me.
Yeah.
It just looked like a dream sequence. Everybody was in white, and it was really oddly colored.
Yeah, it was almost like hazy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Airport, I thought, like a really cool airport, because all those in the glass, tall ceilings.
So Jim from Eunice shows up again, and he says that he funds the facility and he needs the info, implying that he can just pull funding from the entire lab if the info is not gotten. So the main character is Rex. He leaves his office, and he's walking around with a brain in a jar, pretty nonchalantly in public, just walking down the street with his brain in the jar. He runs into a bum who says he's got my brain, and he tries to steal it. And the jar shatters, and Rex gets hit by a car. So a lot's happening at once. So he wakes up, and he finds out that since he refused his funding, he wakes up and he finds out his funding is pulled because he got into a fight with a bum and broke the brain instead of getting the info. And there's another scientist in his lab taking over. And he has a wacky assistant who knocks over all the shelves with all the brains. And then we find out that that was just a dream. So this is going to be a repeating thing throughout the movie. Something happens, and then you find out it actually didn't happen. And you don't really know what actually happened and what did not happen. Because it's just like a dream or a memory or not, or maybe this is where the movie just goes off the rails and starts getting very, very confusing.
Well, you see him hit the car. I mean, you see his head smash into the windshield. And there's blood.
Yes.
And he comes and he wakes up, and there's no bandage. There's nothing on his head. There's no wound or anything. And he just walks in to find that his funding's been pulled. And, that's where I was kind of curious about what was going on. And I just thought it was funny when they were arguing over the brain, him and the homeless guy. They were just screaming, "It's my brain, it's my brain."
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I'm glad you're saying this, because I was like, I finally found a horror movie that I'm just far too stupid to understand, because I wasn't and could not figure it out. I watched it 3 times. I watched it again today, like trying to make synapses between point A, B, and C. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, my notes say we find out that was a bad dream. Maybe the car accident too. He's not sure. And I'm not sure if he's not sure is referring to me or the main character. Oh, the main character's not sure if he got hit by the car either. So now everybody's confused, even the people in the movie. So Rex visits Halsey again, the crazy guy, and he gets him to agree to a brain procedure. So this is now we're back in the hospital, and we're going to cut out the schizophrenic's paranoia part of the brain again. So they go to a board meeting, and it shows a lobotomy, and it brings out Halsey to show how this is different. So I don't know why they had to like lobotomize somebody to be like, this is not what we're going to do. I feel like they could have spared that other person instead of doing a live lobotomy, but okay.
But then they scalp the person, so that's not a ton better? I don't know.
Yeah, they did a live scalping to get to the brain too. Just kind of, there's an office room, and then there's people walking in and out of, like, there's like a window where I guess there's a lab, and they're doing these surgeries. But people are kind of just walking in and out of there. It doesn't seem very sanitary. It's definitely not a sterile environment for lobotomies and scalpings.
No, his brain was just out in the open.
Yeah, so they open up the guy's skull, and for the rest of the movie, this guy's kind of just sitting in a chair with his brain exposed. And that's his character now. He's just the guy with the brain hanging out. So where are we? So, yeah, Halsey's in the chair with his brain exposed. The operation ensues, cutting into... Was that real brain surgery footage? I feel like it was.
Oh, I don't know.
Because they make like they're cutting into the actor's head, and then it cut to something that looked like a real, actual brain to me. I think they cut to actual footage. Anyway, Halsey's interacting with Rex, but seeing him in the operating room as completely different things. So, like, he's answering their questions, but when he looks at them, he sees 2 old ladies in a fancy room. He sees a family on a beach. Yeah. Are you guys completely lost at this point of the movie, or are you still, like, following what's going on?
I kind of feel like the whole thing was they just said, here's a bunch of things that are cool. You figure it out. Like is he this person? And he's that person. And he's that person. And also that person. He's definitely not that person. Okay, maybe he is that person. And they just kind of kept throwing out. They should have picked one of the plot lines and just stuck with it. He is this person. That person killed his family. I can roll with that. I know what that is. I can move forward with that. But I didn't. There was too many switches for no real reason, I thought.
I thought we were going in a completely different direction with this movie. I mean, at this point, I was like, all right, I'm still following. I'm like, this is plausible, I guess. And then they started talking about cosmetic brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
and like being able to change people's personalities, to get rid of paranoia or cowardice or whatever it is, and actually go in and change the things that people don't like about themselves. And I thought that would be a great movie, and I thought that's where we were going, but it's not. It's not where we went at all.
Right, almost like in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where you can like wipe like certain memories out of the brain. Yeah, I get you there. Yeah, it was kind of like they wanted every 5 minutes to be like an M. Night Shyamalan twist moment, where you're like, what you just saw was not what happened. This is what happened. Oh wait, that's not what happened. This is what happens, and it just keeps doing that over and over for the next hour, I think. So he changes Halsey's memories. He thought a man in a white suit was following him. Now he doesn't. So they're thinking they got rid of the paranoia part by getting rid of the man in the white suit. A very specific thing to remove from the brain, but they did it. So congratulations on that. The board congratulates Rex and talks about mass marketing this procedure. They just want to give like casual brain surgeries to people going forward. Rex goes back into the operating room. The guy's Halsey's still sitting there with his brain exposed. It's been a long time at this point. They've had an entire conference about marketing this procedure, and they never closed the guy's head back up, which I thought was pretty funny. Rex looks out into the boardroom, and it's empty. So did any of that happen? I don't know.
Well, then Rex started seeing the man in white with the blood all over him.
Yes.
So I was like, well, did the procedure somehow transfer the paranoia to him? Which was just further confusing.
I cannot wait until we do a less confusing movie, because this was not easy.
It's hilariously confusing, though. It's like you cannot, as soon as it gets its grounding, it pulls the rug up and says, nope, over here, and then back over there.
So now
a change.
Yeah. So now Rex is driving to a restaurant, and he thinks somebody's following him. So we got this tense, almost car chase moment, but it turns out it's his wife, also going to the restaurant to meet him. So at dinner, he starts just completely losing it. He sees the man in the white suit. He sees Jim kissing his wife. He sits with a different family. He's talking gibberish. The CEO is there. And his wife thinks he's... the CEO, his wife, and Jim all think he's drunk. And then he sees the man in the white all the way home from the restaurant. He sees Jim sleeping with his wife when he gets home. He sees the man in white kill them. The neighbor asks what's going on, and he's casually talking to the neighbor holding a bloody lobotomy tool. So, again, did any of that happen? I don't know.
I will say, I thought the death scenes were pretty cool, because they have, in the old surgeries, I guess, when you lobotomize somebody back in the day, you took this giant spike and went through their eye, and that's what they did in the procedure.
Yes.
And he stabbed out all their eyes with a whatever that tool is that would be used for lobotomy. I thought that was clever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I'll give it.
If you've ever listened to The Dollop, they do an episode on lobotomies, and it's hilarious. They're like they go through like weird bits of history, and they make it funny. So I recommend that.
Did you notice what she was wearing during the sex scene?
No.
She had a pearl necklace on.
There you go.
I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, that's totally intentional.
Did the pearl necklace...
Absolutely intentional.
Did she receive a pearl necklace or not? I don't know, because I'm not writing this movie. So he wakes up in a hospital saying, I didn't do it. But now you're not sure if the restaurant happened, walking in on Jim and his wife. Like, he's just in a hospital now. So now I'm thinking maybe he's crazy and none of that happened, which would erase 95% of what we've seen up to now, and we're like an hour deep into the movie. So Rex finds out he's not in a hospital. He's been in an asylum. And the man in the white is the head doctor. So now we got audio's getting, there we go. So we got I think that's 3 plot twists in the last 5 minutes. And so he finds out he's the crazy one and Halsey is made up. He's actually Halsey. So the schizophrenic is him and the crazy guy's been in his head the whole time. It's another plot twist.
But then, in the doctor's office,
yes,
on the back wall, there was a picture of the original Halsey, like a sketch.
Oh, I saw that sketch too. I was wondering what that was. It was like a child did it, right?
Right. And I looked at it, I'm like, why is there a sketch of Halsey over here?
It was together.
And there was the whole office scene where he's explaining, I'm on the 8th floor, and he's like, no, open the window. And he opens the window, and he's on the ground floor at Lakeview Sanitarium.
Yeah.
But then at the very beginning of the movie, Rex was in his office talking to the secretary before he even had the accident. So now I'm wondering, was that real? Was the very beginning of the movie real?
You can't tell if anything is real in this movie.
And why was the sketch look like it was done by an 8-year-old? It was a framed sketch.
Yeah.
Right.
By a child. I didn't know what it was. But I kept looking at it like, the fuck is that?
So now he's finding out he's crazy. What Frank just said, his office isn't where he thinks it is. Jim, the guy who was going to pull the funding, is actually the accountant for whatever job he has. So Jim is real, but he's not like a big shot. He runs away and hides in another patient's room. A woman who is writing pussy on the wall in crayon 1,000,000 times.
Best part of the movie.
Definitely a highlight.
Absolutely. I hired her to decorate my guest bedroom.
So this is where it just goes off the wall. He gets pulled into a closet with 3 crazy women. He runs away from them, runs into another room that's another level of crazy. A guy is putting a rabbit and people in cages. He runs out into the doctor, who explains to him that the crazy people weren't real either. So again, everything we just saw didn't happen again, or maybe it did.
Well, then he was in the sanitarium, and they told him that he's Halsey. He murdered his family, and he murdered, presumably, Jim and his wife. But then Jim is an accountant now. So what's Jim doing there?
I don't even know what his job is at this point. What was that, Peter?
And wasn't he also murdered already?
The main character murdered?
No.
Jim.
This was where they were him and his wife were killed on the table, right? I guess he's just someone else now. I guess he was killed as that person, but now he's this. So I don't know. Sorry, go ahead. I can't find 4 plot lines behind.
So they just give him shock therapy, or maybe they don't. I don't know what's real at this point. That he imagines he gets shock therapy, or maybe he gets it. But there's shock therapy happening. Which, by the way, for people who don't know, that is the sequel to what is that musical from the 70s? Time Warp?
Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yes. Shock Therapy is the sequel to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I know that had a sequel. All right.
Yeah. Don't recommend. Definitely. They only got the the creepy doctor guy back. Nobody else from the original cast came back.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Okay, so shock therapy. He wakes up to Halsey telling him how to escape. So we think Halsey's still part of his brain, but he's telling him how to escape. And a nurse is coming, so Halsey hides in the closet. Rex opens the closet, and Halsey's dead. And then Rex wakes up again. So I guess that didn't happen either. How much of the movie's been a dream is very unclear at this point. He wakes up again. He just keeps waking up at this point. He something happens, and then he just keeps waking up. And Halsey's there again. He's alive again. He finally realizes he's in a coma with brain damage from the car accident. So the whole movie's been in his head, we think. Right?
Presumably, yes.
Okay.
I thought so at this point.
Okay. So he sees his wife and Jim looking down on him. He runs into a closet, and instead the closet is the edge of a building. Jim thinks he hears him in the closet, kind of like a Beetlejuice moment, where he's like able to make noise that people are able to hear, but they can't see him, like he's a ghost, kind of. You know, like how like... What was that?
It didn't happen before or after that. It was an isolated incident.
Yeah, it was a one-time only thing, yes. So he falls off the edge of the building, and he lands in the ocean. This movie is completely off the rails at this point. Halsey's just chilling in the ocean, just waiting for him in the middle of the ocean. And he says it's the inside of his mind, and Halsey can't get hurt, but Rex can. And then Halsey immediately gets eaten by something in the ocean, and blood rises up. So I think that's the end of Halsey. So in his mind, there's an ocean at the bottom of a building with, I guess, sharks in it.
And what's great, too, is they clearly, to film that scene, they clearly just jumped off a boat. Like, he's like, They show him from like a foot above the water, just like cannonballs right in there. It clearly didn't fall 400 feet from a cliff. He, jumped off a dock.
Yeah. Let's see. Rex wakes up again, and he's outside a restaurant, and the owner thinks he's a bum. So this is where I started getting mad, because now I'm like,
up till now, at me.
Well, at first I was like, well, this is like, maybe this is like a well-written psychological thing, and I'm just like having a little bit of trouble following. But the 8th time he wakes up, I'm like, okay, now you're just being annoying. Like, I don't need 17 twists in 30 minutes. So he stumbles away and he goes to his office, and everything looks normal. And he gets a call that is asking for Halsey. So Rex runs out of the office just as 2 guys with guns enter the office. And he escapes and goes to the Eunice headquarters. And the bum is there, the bum from the beginning of the movie that tried to take his brain, but he doesn't recognize him. And Jim is in his car in the parking lot, and Rex gets in with him. You guys are totally following this right now, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I noticed the homeless guy was drinking Dickel bourbon, and with the pearl necklace on the wife. I was like, this all has to be intentional. This has to be. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess since it's all in his head, he's got some perverted Easter eggs going on in his hallucinations. It's got to be. It has to be. So he gets in the car. Rex gets in the car with Jim, and immediately Rex is in the operating room with the board watching. So they want the equation from him. So he's the one with the equation now. If you remember from the very beginning, there was an equation. I think we got kind of lost with all these plot twists. The whole point was there's some equation that they want to get, which will be good for business. They never explained what the equation would do, right? They never did.
They hinted at
but
it.
they said it was. They said it was 3 numbers that were erased.
Okay.
They had everything else, but the final 3 numbers. These guys couldn't figure out 3 numbers of this equation.
I mean, it'd take a couple hours, but
I mean, really?
yeah.
It was 1990.
3 numbers will never crack the code.
Get the hacker out.
we need to lobotomize and shock therapy people. All right, so where am I? They're in the board meeting. They want the equation. Jim tries to get it out of him too. He tells him he murdered his family. So Jim tells Rex that Rex murdered his family. When he doesn't give it up, they decide to just wipe his memory, which I feel like would make it more difficult getting the code from him if they wipe his memory completely. But that's just me. So now Rex is driving. I guess none of the hospital stuff happened. And now he's driving a car and he crashes the car into himself. So he's both driving and hitting himself. He wakes up in a different operating room now, and they're calling him Rex, which is his name, so that makes sense. He's not Halsey. And he sees his wife and assistant and Jim all watching him. He goes under and wakes up in the asylum. I think that's the 56th plot twist that they've done. So he's back in the asylum, and all the characters are patients, except Halsey, who is the doctor. Another plot twist. So everybody in this whole movie has just been patients in the asylum. Halsey's the doctor. But now they're back in the operating room again. So maybe the hospital thing didn't happen. And he flatlines. And the final scene is his brain on the shelf with the other brains from the beginning, and his brain is able to think, which was, again, very like Futurama.
And speak.
And speak. It kind of made me think that Matt Groening might have seen this movie.
Yeah.
Well, were we watching the whole movie from the perspective of the brain on the shelf? Because it was labeled 5689 paranoia. So was that just one of the paranoia brains?
Probably.
And we were just watching a whole, like, whatever the brain saw throughout the whole movie?
Well, and the movie's called Brain Damage, so I'm thinking it was the one that was dropped and they put the Jell-O in with it to fix the brain. And clearly that didn't work because the brain is damaged.
Well, it's brain dead, but sure.
Again, I got the movie wrong.
That was a man to summarize that film, I will tell you. That's probably the hardest film to summarize that exists.
Yeah. I don't know why we decided to start with one of the most difficult.
Bloody hell.
I was
And
halfway.
the prosthetic that they put on Rex's head with the hair coming out with the bandages and everything was absolutely insane. His head was 10 inches taller than it should have been.
Oh my god, it was so.
And he had a wig on too.
Yeah, they put like a prosthetic scar with a wig with bandages all on top of one another. He almost looked like a cone head. It was really funny. So
I feel like end of it. Are you done with the synopsis? Or?
that is my synopsis. I am done with it.
All right, because there's something to add where it kind of went full on art house.
Okay.
Where butterfly that landed on his brain, or he opened his head up and butterflies were in his head and they flew out of his head. I guess that just means change. And then a butterfly landed on his brain.
Could have
Remember?
been butterfly effect.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, so it was this butterfly just kind of like stuck on his brain or just hanging out there. I don't know.
Or was it?
Or maybe that didn't happen. I don't know.
Maybe the butterfly was a character in the asylum.
Maybe it never happened in the movie, and I imagined it.
I did start questioning my sanity about 70 minutes into that movie.
I mean, maybe that's the reason that he only directed Adam. What's his name? I have to look for it. Yeah, Adam Simon, the director. He only directed 8 films in his career, it seems, and one of them was Carnosaur from 1993.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe it was as bad as we think.
Or it's brilliant. It could be brilliant.
We could just be too dumb to understand the movie.
I thought that halfway through it. I'm like, I'm not smart enough to understand this horror film. But I actually went online and was reading about it, and everyone was like, what the fuck is this? Like, why? Like, its biggest... wasn't a lot of reviews on it, actually, but a lot of them said, like, take it down a notch, pick a story and go with it, which I think it actually was quite confusing.
That's a understatement of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't me.
I was enjoying it while I was watching it. But then when, like, 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, every scene is a plot twist, then I was like, okay, now I'm starting to enjoy this a little bit less. I was okay with a few, but I feel like they tried to get a little too witty with it.
Yeah, he was going for an Oscar or something. I don't know. He big names. The guy from Harold and Maude, the kid from Harold and Maude was in it.
Mm-hmm.
Who I thought overacted like crazy, but a different era, so people did that. But he got a good cast to do it. I'll give him that.
I mean, I was excited that Lone Star was in there. I was really into it. Bill Pullman. I was like, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised at the big names that were in this movie. So, what do you guys give this movie? Was Pullman what?
Do you? I guess that's question one. Was Bill Pullman good in this movie?
I thought everybody was decent. I didn't think it was.
I thought he was as good as he could be. Yeah,
I thought the acting in this movie was fine, and I didn't even really mind the movie. It was just I think it tried to get too witty for its own good. So, but I didn't hate it.
Didn't hate it.
So let's do out of brains, 1 out of 5, 1 to 5 brains. What would you guys give this?
Okay, on my first watch,
mm-hmm.
I would have given it 1 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
On my second watch, I think things started to tie together a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give it a 1.75.
Okay.
1.75 brains, exactly.
1.75 brains. Broken glass jar brains.
Okay. Peter, what would you give this?
Well, I'm all right. So I got to sort of specify something. This is the first podcast. Like, there's movies like Pieces or The Microwave Massacre that are terrible,
mm-hmm.
right? But they're awesome because everything about them is terrible. So
yes.
If something is so bad it's good, does that get a high rating?
Yes, it's your enjoyment level. We're not going by like how is this rate as like a masterpiece. This is like your enjoyment level.
Okay, okay, so I'm recommending it as a person watching a movie, not as a film critic. All right, got it.
Yeah. That's going to be all our ratings, by the way. Just
okay.
What we felt about it. Yeah.
All right, well, with that in mind, if you movies, like I said, like the older movies, like I Spit on Your Grave, whatnot, everything about them is a little better because they're so dated. Like everyone shoots, their perception, like their decisions, everything, the music, everything's so bad it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have movies today that are good, like Heretic, whatnot. But this movie kind of fell in the middle in no man's land.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't dated. It was dated, sure, but it wasn't dated enough to give it a pass
mm-hmm.
for everything being bad.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't modern enough to fit in here. So it doesn't get any extra points for enjoyment for the genre in that regards. I'm going to also go with 1.75 brains because I think that's spot on. The ambition gives it more than one, but everything that fell apart and how aggravating it was trying to figure it out, question my own sanity, doesn't give it 2. So I think 1.75 is. I'm going to steal that from you because I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean the movies that are so bad they're good are almost self-aware that they're playing it up. Where this movie was bad, but it was interesting, but it wasn't good in any fun way. It was good in a way that I had to think about the movie for an hour and 20 minutes, but it wasn't. The plot didn't lead itself to anything, so it just kind of frustrated me.
Yeah. But then they had moments where the woman wrote pussy on the wall 40,000 times. And you're like, that's funny. They didn't have to put that in there. That's out there. That's out there, at least, but not enough. More of that.
And then the bum trying to steal brains because he thinks it's his own brains. I mean, that made no sense, and that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good. He could have been... It was kind of like somebody dressing up like a bum for Halloween, though. You know what I mean? Clearly had a wig on.
Right, yeah.
Dust here and dust here, and he had bottle of booze. But
or Halsey when he buys the pack of cigarettes and he's talking about the FDR. I don't. What was he doing? He was fucking a girl on the back of the camel or on the pack of smokes, and I'm like, that's not real, right? And it almost made me want to go out and buy a pack of Camels and check.
Right.
I remember that as a thing, though. Like they had pictures in the Camel on the Camel cigarettes. I think that's real. I think there are images hidden in there. That's not the first I've heard of that.
Interesting.
For what it's worth.
Oh.
And not much.
I don't know if it's because I had to keep pausing the movie to write down this walkthrough, and maybe that helps me digest it a little bit, but I was enjoying the movie while I was watching it. Reading back my walkthrough, it doesn't sound like I enjoyed it at all, but at the moment I was kind of enjoying it. So I'm going to go much higher. I'm going to go like 3.5.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
I don't know. I just I was having fun while I was watching it. Thinking back on it, I might not give it that high now, but my initial write down reaction was 3.5.
Are you ever going to watch? This is kind of an interesting question. Are you ever going to watch it again?
Probably not. I don't do a whole lot of rewatches just because my backlog is so comically big that I don't do a lot of rewatches now. But if I was, I probably wouldn't do that either because it was just, I feel like when there's a lot of plot twists, like once you've seen it, like like Sixth Sense, that's not a movie you're going to watch a lot because like you know what the plot twist is. So I feel like when there's a big plot twist, you're less likely to watch a movie again.
Although if there's 35 plot twists.
That is true. That is true. I probably don't remember all 35 plot twists. Yes.
So if you're going to give this a 3.5,
yeah.
And you were to rate the Exorcist, is that getting like a 16 out of 5?
Yeah. I mean, Exorcist is like one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Yeah.
You're not giving yourself much room here.
Yeah, I'm going to regret this rating later on.
I hope so.
I'm just going with what I wrote.
5 is spot on.
You're going to rate something lower than 3.5, and we're going to come back to this and say, but do you remember Brain Dead?
Yeah. I'm definitely going to regret this rating. I know. Yeah.
Hold you to it.
Yeah. So that was Brain Dead, not Brain Damage, which now I want to watch Brain Damage.
Much better.
Much better? Okay.
Much better.
while.
Okay. So, yeah. See, I guess one of you guys is going to do the next walkthrough, and it's guaranteed to be an easier walkthrough. And next time I pick a movie, I'm going to make sure it's the dumbest, simplest plot imaginable.
Yep, 6 people go to the cabin, butchered one by one. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. I want like a 3-sentence synopsis instead of like pages. Well, hopefully I was clear enough in the walkthrough. If it seemed confusing, that's because the movie was way more confusing than even what I wrote down.
I thought you did a pretty good job because I didn't know how you're going to pull it off.
It was I literally had to pause the movie like every 30 seconds to like, and now he's not in the hospital. Now he's over here, and now he's over there. So anyway, yeah, that was Brain Dead. If you have any movie suggestions, you could email us, the number 3basketcases@gmail.com, and we're 3basketcases on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. You guys got anything else you want to talk about before we go?
I don't think so. I think that covered it.
All right. Yeah, we'll be back.
No, I'm good here.
Cool. So we'll be back soon, and yeah, I'm gonna play the goodbye song.
Bye, love. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. It's all over. Goodbye. It's time to go. This is the end. Say goodbye. You better go away. I'm gonna leave you. It's the end. Goodbye. Goodbye. Just leave me alone. Feels so good to say goodbye. I'm sick and tired and I'm saying goodbye. Goodbye, girl. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Everybody.
Hello.